Tank destroyers have been known to be one of the most intimidating types of tanks in World of Tanks. These tanks come in all different styles. Some of these tanks are heavily armored with a devastating gun, and others have a weaker armor, but have the ability to stay undetected, and this allows them to destroy their enemies without ever being seen. Welcome to the Tank Destroyer class. Hello, and welcome to World of Tanks. Today we're going to take a look at the Tank Destroyer class. Hopefully this video will help you decide if this class is for you. Tank Destroyers vary in armor, with some having amazingly thick armor and others having almost none. Tank Destroyers also vary in types of guns, with some being able to shoot and destroy a tank in just one shot, where others having a faster reload time are able to destroy a target in just a couple of shots. As a rule, lower armored tank destroyers have a better camouflage and are harder to spot, while well-armored tank destroyers are often expected to be near the front and help lead the charge, but this isn't always the best move. Tank destroyers also have a variety of body styles that also affects how they are played. Some tank destroyers have a superstructure that allows limited movement of the gun, which means the hull and the turret of the tank are one solid piece and the gun is limited on how far it can move before having to reposition the entire tank. Others have a fully rotating turret, just like a heavy or a medium tank. The turret and the hull are separate pieces and allows the tank to rotate the turret freely from the hull. The variety of tank destroyers and how they are played will affect your decision on which tank destroyer you should go for. The main feature of a tank destroyer is almost always its gun. From lower tier to higher, you will find a tank either has a better rate of fire or damage and a slower reloads as its main advantages. Some tanks will have a choice between the so-called derp guns, which produce a higher damage, or faster firing low damage guns. Once you start hitting higher tiers, the decision tends to be not as difficult to choose since you will have a feeling of what you like. The faster firing guns as a rule tend to also be more accurate, with the higher damage guns though having a much less accuracy. These rules will still apply at higher tiers when you see the 120 to 130mm guns having a higher rate of fire while the damage remains low, and the 150 to 183mm guns have a much higher damage but sacrificing rate of fire. With the FV-215B 183, or better known as the Death Star, its gun only fires 2 rounds in a minute, but the damage can be so high that a lot of tanks can be killed in just one shot. As a rule, most tank destroyers are slower and sluggish, and often have bad track traverse, making them very easy to circle. This lack of speed makes you very vulnerable to quite a lot of things. At close range, light and medium tanks can easily circle you. Running with a group of tanks can help stop this from happening, but if you're alone, try using a building or a cliff to stop them from being able to get around you. Don't try to turn with them. Line yourself up with the edge of a building or a cliff or a rock and reverse towards it, blocking them from circling you. Then you can work on getting him in front of your gun. Moving slowly also makes you an easy target for artillery, and often you can be perfectly placed to not be penetrated by enemy tanks when artillery comes in and devastates you with one shot. So learning places that are already safe, which are spots that an artillery can't shoot, is very important. Also, check at the start of the game if the enemy has artillery. If they don't, you have more options at your disposal. The different designs of a tank destroyer means that sometimes one spot which is good for a tank isn't as good for a similar tank. The slightest difference can be the meaning of life or death. For example, something like gun depression can turn a good spot into a terrible spot, or one tank that has a good camouflage may be able to get into a spot further forwards in a bush and still be concealed, but may not be as good for a less stealthy tank. Learn the weak spots and the general weaknesses of your tank is very important in deciding where you go from the start of a game. Some tank destroyers have a good view range, while others don't. Most tank destroyer players will not rely on others to spot for them. For this, the right equipment will make a huge difference. Knowing your view range is very important, as it will help you determine if the spot you are in is going to work. You don't want to sit at the end of a valley to only realize you couldn't spot anyone until they are so close to you that you couldn't do anything about it. You also don't want to be so far forwards that everyone can spot you as well, so use your view range to help work out a good spot for you. Another thing to think about is camouflage rating. The general rule is that the less armor, the better camouflage rating. The prime example being to take one of the best armored tank destroyers and one of the worst armored tank destroyers and compare them. The Jagdpanzer E100 is one of the worst camouflage ratings in the game, but it's very well armored. At the other end, the Borsig Waffentrag, which has almost no armor, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but it has one of the best camouflage ratings in the game. This means it is easy to damage, but it is very hard to spot. This camouflage rating allows the Borsig to sit further forwards or in more exposed bushes than other tanks, as it is so much less likely to be seen. So knowing if your tank is stealthy or not will influence your decision on where to go. As you progress through the tech tree, you will learn more and more about not only your tank, but the tanks you will face. This knowledge will help you make decisions about your tank and how you play. Knowing if your tank is all about armor and using it to help push at the front, or whether it's a stealthy ninja hiding in the bushes making the other team shout, "Where is that guy?" All are needed and all are used, but it is down to you to learn which you prefer, what you are best at, and what your tank is best at. Once you have played your tank and you know how you want to play it, it's now time for optimization. Equipment are items you can buy and place on your tank. There are no clear choices with equipment on tank destroyers, but if you're not willing to rely on your teammates for spotting, then you will want to look at coated optics or binoculars. Stealthy tanks will want to make themselves even stealthier and use a camouflage net. Then you have to think about whether you want a faster rate of fire with a gun rammer, or whether you want a quicker aim time as you already fire faster than your tank can aim. World of Tanks has a wide variety of equipment available for each tank, and using and combining different equipment can make all the difference. So knowing how you and your tank play, you will need to choose what's best for you. Now, the most important thing that I can teach you today is just enjoy yourself. As with all games, World of Tanks is about having fun, whether alone or with friends. You may jump into a tank destroyer and not like them. That's okay. Everyone has their own style and tanks they like. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned from it. I've been your narrator and editor, WizardKen, with the writer, Jack the Ripper. Until next time, see ya.